Okay, good morning, Chabra. Good morning, David. Good morning, Shalom Yosef. Tomorrow we finish the entire book of Tanya. So today's the second to last day, and it's a little bit lengthy, but it packs a punch. Let's see what it says here. Essay 8 of Kuntras Acharon, page 60 in your Chayenu. Zev, you got the Chayenu page 60. This letter emphasizes the central importance of davening and how it should not be rushed. Rather, it should be slow-paced and meditative. It's a time for inner transformation. Perfect, Nati. Thank you. Larry, you ready to go? Page 60. I've heard with foreboding, I'm deeply grieved. Alter Rebbe says he's a little upset over here. ולפני הטבע האיש, שחפץ בחיים, אריכות ימים של כל אנשי שלומנו, במקדש מעט הזה על של אנשי שלומנו. That the people, Larry, come over here. It's too sunny over there. Yeah. That the people are preventing one who yearns for long life and longevity for all our brethren from leading services. Why? Because the person leading services will be slow and lengthy. Steve, 3 things prolong the days of man. One of these things is prolonged davening. There's some guys that ran out. I wanted them to hear this, but they're gone already. It's true. Even one who's extremely pressed for time, who finds it impossible to wait until the minion responds for Kedusha by this person who leads the davening slowly. It's far better for him to forego hearing Kedusha and Baruch Hu, even if he has to leave early, than to tamper with the lives of those who desire to daven slowly. And the Torah, after all, exonerates the compelled. The Torah does, after all, exonerate the compelled. The reader, the guy who's leading, discharges his obligation for him of hearing Kedusha and Baruch Hu, even though he did not hear them recited. So meaning, if a person has to leave. The person who's leading will have everybody in mind, and even if you miss it, the Chazan will have you in mind, just as though he had heard it himself. This is the Gemara Gabi Shabasadois. The Gemara notes, and this is in reference to the people in the fields, people that are working outside and they have to be at work, right? And they're considered to be under duress. They fulfill their obligation of reciting the Shemona Esrei prayer itself, and not only of participating in the responses of Baruch Hu and Kedusha. They participate in the Shemona Esrei when the Chazan repeats the Shemona Esrei as if they had actually heard it from him. V'gam Kedusha and Baruch Hu, and also included in this is Kedusha and Baruch Hu. So this being the case, a person who's in a rush, go, but don't inconvenience others who want to daven slowly. Hine zois chakarnuha kenhu. This we have searched and verified. Even regarding the early generations of the sages of the Mishnah and the Gemara, their main thrust was studying Torah, not prayer. But of course they davened as well. Even with them, prolonged prayer was related to life and longevity. Mikol shekain ata hapam beikvois meshicha she'ein teirasenu keva mitzay ka'itim. So that was then, that even then, when their main focus was Torah learning, but they also daven long. But what about now? That this is the time just before Mashiach, when our Torah study is not as constant, because we got to go to work, whatever, difficult times. At this time, the main thrust, the connection to Hashem, is through davening. Of course we have to learn, but davening is like we're begging Hashem to send us Mashiach. Mashikosav Harav Chaim Vital, yeah, Zechron Levrach Beitz Chaim, Uprei Chaim. Oh, exactly. Right. That was then. This is now. We have to focus on the davening, as Reb Chaim Vital Zal writes in the Pri Etz Chaim. Then it's fitting to put our devotion completely into it. By the way, learning Torah, it's a chayva shel Torah to prolong the davening right now. Basically. This prolonged prayer is an actual Torah mandate. And we have to put as much kavana and meditation into it as each according to his ability. In order to, a person has to put all his emphasis, his koiches, into praising Hashem in the Psukei de Zimra and the two blessings before Shema. To arouse these blessings, the love that's inside of every single yid, in order to conjure up the love as much as possible to the highest level for when we get to Krishma, when we get to the Shema. As we learned last night in the Maimer, this is the meaning of the mitzvah of love that appears in the pasuk. You shall love Hashem with all your heart, and then he says, "V'gomer," as the pasuk continues, and with all your soul and with all your might. And this is the first among the 613 mitzvahs. And how are we going to do that if we're just rushing through? So we have to put our heart and soul and our emphasis into the davening. The Rambam said, this is fundamental and foundational of the 248 positive mitzvahs, to love Hashem. And how do we love Hashem? We have to put our energy into it. And we have to wake it up leading up to the Shema, which declares our love for Hashem. So every yid has a love for Hashem. You don't have to do anything about it. But we're talking about the love that we have to wake up. V'das, v'novain, nokol. And this makes sense to those that understand. Yeah, obviously, if you're the certain parts of you just come from your parents automatically, right? But the ability to get up and work and be successful, that you have to earn on your own. You have the ability, but you got to work. You got to put your mind to it. So too, every single Jew has the ability to love Hashem, but we can't just take it for granted. We got to work on it. So kishava he misateres he oidena benefesh Kislev. So while the love is concealed, it's still within the divine soul alone. Kshabal b'chinas gilei lenefesh achiyunis azahi biskalos halev b'cholos mali makei mishkan nefesh achiyunis. Only when it attains to a state of revelation in the animated soul, the nefesh habahamis, nefesh achiyunis, here it says, it's revealed in the heart, in the left chamber, the abode of the animating soul. So since this soul animates the entire body, the person as a whole will be permeated with this love. If you leave it only in the nefesh halikis, and it's not going to be a complete love. It's just going to be a spiritual love. So we got to bring it out to the whole body. V'zeu inyan birur hanitzutzos hamuzkar sham beitz chaim pri Eitz Chaim gabi tefillah. This is the meaning of the elevation of the sparks mentioned in the Eitz Chaim and pri Eitz Chaim. When it comes to davening, that through davening one elevates the sparks of holiness that fell from the world of tohu chaos. That's why davening is the primary focus at this time, right before Mashiach comes. In order to seek out and elevate the sparks. How do we do it? By loving Hashem completely, with all our heart, soul, and might. Yeah.
Can you put, when you're davening, service, you do a lot of personal prayer in there as well?
Sure, 100%. And that it's more meaningful, right? Mm-hmm. If it's just reading words, then sometimes it gets just by rote. But you have that's the concept of kavanah, because you're using your mind. You're putting your mind into it, right? And you, of course, you have to add in your own tefillas. It's good. It's an excellent point, Larry. Excellent point. I'm sorry. Shehu b'chinas isapcha or iskafia shel nefesh ha'chayunis l'nefesh ha'kis k'neida. So what we're doing is we're transforming or subjugating the animal soul, but our entire bodies are in it. K'dam hu ha'nefesh. The blood is the soul. V'adam mischadesh b'chol yoim me'echolin u'mashkin. The blood is renewed daily when we eat and drink. So by directing this eating and drinking to holy goals, one refines and elevates the sparks found within the food and drink. You say a bracha on a kosher food item, you're elevating that food item, and it's becoming a part of you. V'gam mispal the niskan mimalbushim v'dira, and the man is affected and improved by his garments and his shelter and so on. So everything, he's wearing his shirt and his pants and his home and his car and everything. As long as he has intention that it's helping to serve Hashem, he is refining the sparks that are within those physical objects as well. And so the Alter Rebbe continues to encourage us to prolong our davening and our personal davening, which is our meditation, thinking about the greatness of Hashem, connecting with Him in the deepest possible way from our entire being, not just from the spiritual part of ourselves, not just from the godly soul, but from our entire being. This was different back in the early generations, right? The time of the Gemara, when they wrote the Gemara in the early generations, when the divine souls were of higher order. And the refinement and the elevation of the sparks were instantaneous those days by means of Kriyashma and the blessings preceding it and the bridge Psukkah de Zimra and so on. These prayers were alone to bring out the love of Hashem and elevate all the sparks around them. But today we need a lot more. We need extra davening and we need extra kavanah, and we have to also do it while we're eating and while we're exercising and while we're working and while we're playing with our children and while we're driving on the road, and just like it says in Shema, while we're in our home, while we lie down to go to sleep, and when we get up, every part of us has to be thinking about and focusing on this, awakening this love of Hashem, and that's going to be the, God willing, the catalyst that will tip the scale to bring Mashiach. And then he says, V'day l'mevin, this is enough for now. The Alter Rebbe is pleading with us. Don't forget the importance of davening. The words must be said carefully and patiently. Not only is prayer important to divine service, lengthy prayer is also. As our sages teach us, lengthy prayer is a remedy for long life, longevity. Want to live a long life? Daven a little bit longer. Spend a little extra time davening, and that will give you good health and long life. Okay, Chevra, tomorrow we complete the entire Tanya. We'll see you then. Have a wonderful day and a good Tavach Shavua Tov.